Hello, kind, creative, and courageous artists. We have a very fun project today. We will be celebrating the fall season by tracing around fall leaves. Either your teacher will bring these in, or you may even go outside and find some fall leaves yourself. We'll create a composition on our piece of paper using these leaves. We're going to fill them in using warm watercolors and then add a background using cool colored markers. There are so many art techniques we're going to be using, a lot of art vocabulary we're going to be learning and reviewing, and all of this is going to create a beautiful fall-themed work of art. Let's get started. For this project, you'll need a pencil, a black crayon or a dark colored crayon, leaves to trace around, watercolor paint, paintbrushes and water, and markers. First, you are going to flip your paper over to the back and write your name on it. And then you're going to flip your paper over and start thinking about how you want to position your leaves. We are going to be creating an overlapping design. That means that some leaves are going to be placed on top of other leaves, and we are going to fill up our whole paper. We're not just going to trace one leaf in the middle of the paper. We want leaves going off the edges. We want leaves filling up the entire space. You don't have to lay out your leaves and then try and trace every single one. I kind of want you to go through and trace one at a time and then figure out your composition as you go. As long as I see overlapping in this work of art, space that is filled up, you're checking the boxes for the project. All right, let me start with this ginkgo leaf. You're going to hold the leaf down and using your pencil, you are going to trace around it. We want all of the details in the leaf. What makes ginkgo leaves so interesting is the shape, and I want to make sure I capture the shape. Beautiful, and that leaf is filling up space and it's going off the edge of the paper. Pick up your next leaf and decide where you want to place that. I think I'll just have this one here kind of going off the page. And as I trace around this leaf, I need to decide which leaf is going to be on top, the ginkgo leaf or this oak leaf. I think I'm going to have the ginkgo leaf on top. When I trace around this oak leaf, I need to stop where I see the ginkgo leaf. I'm going to draw this. I'm going to finish tracing around the top of this. It is not going through my ginkgo leaf, so it looks like my ginkgo leaf is sitting on top. If you accidentally draw your line through the leaf, all you have to do is take your eraser, erase that line, and it will once again look like that ginkgo leaf is on top. All right, I'm going to keep filling up the space and create my composition by overlapping my leaves, letting my leaves go off the edge of the paper, and we're going to see how it all turns out. All right, look at that. I think I filled up space really well in my work of art. Next, we are going to be tracing around our leaf shapes using a black or dark colored crayon. You could do black, dark brown. You can even potentially do dark blue, dark purple, dark green. And we are going to trace around our leaves. When you trace around your leaves, I also want you to add details in the leaves. For example, if I'm tracing around this one, I'm going to go in and add the veins that I see in this leaf just for a little extra detail. And as I'm looking at this leaf, I'm seeing that the veins are coming off at a diagonal. They're not coming off in straight up and down lines. The lines are a little bit curving and they're coming off at a diagonal. If you draw lines that are straight up and down, it's not going to look realistic. You want to create a realistic looking fall leaf. You just traced around it. The shape is perfect, and we want to make sure the veins in the leaf follow that as well. You don't have to draw every single vein in the leaf, but I want you to add a little bit of detail into it. If your leaf doesn't really have veins, for example, this ginkgo leaf doesn't really have veins in it, it does have a texture. So you could think about adding just the texture of the leaf. Let me trace around this leaf and let me show you. So for this one, I'm just going to add a few lines coming down to create the texture of the ginkgo leaf. Now I'm going to work on filling up all of my leaves, adding the veins and a few details, and then we're going to start painting. All right, this looks so great. My composition is nice and full. Oh, I missed a leaf over here. I still have some background spaces, but again, my leaves are really filling up the space. They're going off the edges, they're overlapping. I'm checking all of the boxes. Next, we're going to be adding color, and we're going to be focusing on warm colors in our leaves. When you think about fall colors changing from the cool colored greens to oranges, reds, browns, yellows, those are the colors we're focusing on in our fall leaf design. To create this work of art, we are going to be doing wet on wet techniques. And if you have any stray pencil lines, you can go through quick and erase those before you start adding your paint, because once you add your paint, those lines will be there forever. So if you catch any stray lines, now's the time to clean those up. We are going to be doing wet on wet with our watercolor, which means we are painting and filling our leaf in with clear water. And then we're going to use our colors and introduce them to the water. And what happens is having that water on the leaf already will help bleed that color out, spread them together, and combine them. Ginkgo leaves turn this beautiful yellow color, so I'm going to stick with yellows in my ginkgo leaf. You don't have to stick with the exact color your leaves are changing. You can have fun with the color. This is your work of art. This is your vision. Paint it however you want, as long as we're focusing on those warm colors. And you can even use some warm, cool colors such as yellow, green, and red, purple. Just make sure you have more of a warm feeling because we're going to focus on cool colors in the background. I have filled in this beautiful leaf. It looks great. You might be tempted to jump to the leaf right next to the one you just finished. If that wet color touches each other, these two leaves are going to bleed together. If I let this crayon line be my barrier and I don't let that crayon get wet, my color will stay in those two sections. But just to be safe, I'm going to jump all the way over here and I'm going to keep my areas spread out so I can let this dry a little bit, and then I'll start painting them a little bit closer together. Look how amazing that looks. And my leaves are pretty wet. I did a good job keeping the wet areas separate from each other using that crayon line as a guide. As long as I didn't let the water or the paint cross that crayon line, it keeps the paint separate in their own leaf sections. The only spot that I crossed over the line was right here. That's all right. We're just gonna let that kind of bleed in and it's gonna turn out just fine. Now you're going to let your painting sit and dry, and then we are going to come in and finish the background. But first we got to let this beautiful color set into the paper, fully dry, and then we can get started on the last step. Once your painting is dry, it's time for us to add the background. When you look at your painting, I want you to think about the positive space and the negative space. The positive space is your subject. Our subject are the leaves. The leaves create the positive space. The negative space is the space around our positive space, or the background. Your leaves are beautifully filled in with these bright, warm watercolors, and we're going to use markers to fill in the background using a dark and a cool color. That will create nice contrast between your positive space and your negative space. It will also help the background kind of push to the back. It won't make it compete with your beautiful leaves for attention. When you use markers and you want to have a nice, even, flat look, I recommend coloring in circles. When you color in circles, it will create a nice, even layer on your background. I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to go ahead and start filling in my background. And look at that, my beautiful autumn leaf painting is complete with my background with this interesting texture from my watercolor paper. But that dark, cool color kind of pushes to the background, makes my leaves really pop off of the page. Now it's your turn to create your own autumn leaf painting. Don't forget to overlap your leaves, have parts of your leaves going off every single edge of your paper. Fill up the space, add warm watercolors to your positive space or your leaves. Add cool, dark marker for your negative space in the background. You can also use watercolor for the background if you let your top layer fully dry before you start going in with watercolor. Don't forget to add details in your leaves with crayons. Don't use markers, especially washable markers, to add details in your leaves, because when you start adding watercolor, you don't want to wash away and bleed out all of those beautiful lines. The crayons will stay put and will resist that watercolor layer. Think creatively, enjoy this project, have fun, and happy art making.